Senator Nuxoll.
Thank you, Mr. President. Well, there have been a lot of different opinions on this, and as you know, I want to expound probably on one more. And I understand that most of us, do not like the Affordable Care Act. Most of us, anyhow. But I've been concerned, obviously, about the state health insurance exchange and the abortifacient issue in this exchange. And I handed out papers to you, but I want to go over this again with you so you understand exactly what I was referring to and what I found out. Under Obamacare, there is a requirement or mandate for health insurance companies to cover contraception, including ELA and Plan B. It's a necessary requirement for preventative services for women to be included in the qualified health plans. So, I asked the Attorney General for his opinion. And the general consensus from the Idaho Attorney General and the pro-life groups, Idaho Chooses Life and Right to Life of Idaho, is that the abortion opt-out language, which was in Senate 115 bill that passed in 2011, will only protect surgical abortion and the abortion-inducing drug RU-486. And I also handed out that opinion to you yesterday, so you could read that opinion. So in other words, the opinion states that with the state exchange, our insurance companies may not provide coverage for surgical abortions or RU-486, but would be required to provide for Plan B and ELA since they are emergency contraceptives. Plan B and ELA are potential abortifacients since they can prevent the implementation of a fertilized egg, a baby. They also are known to prevent ovulation. If this emergency contraception would in fact prevent implementation of the fertilized egg in the uterus, this is in fact an abortion. But because the woman is not known to be pregnant when she takes this emergency contraception, an abortion could not be definitively proven. The labels on Plan B and ELA show that they can cause an abortion. The literature advertising ELA says, I guess maybe I should ask if I can quote that, Mr. President.
Senator Davis.
Mr. President, if I might inquire, the senator from Seven's heart and mind are spot on this, but I think we have a responsibility to debate the bill. I think the point that she's making is certainly an appropriate point, but I think we're not debating the bill at this point in time, and so I wonder if the President would rule on that.
Senator, at this point I would rule the Senator is expressing some concerns that she has about the bill that are not included in the bill. That has been addressed before by Senators, and I would rule that so far she's in line. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. So if I could quote off of the label of the literature that advertises ELA.
Senator may quote.
ELA may also work by preventing attachment to the uterus. So in other words, it may prevent implementation of the fertilized egg, which is in fact an abortion. The same is true for Plan B. The FDA package insert states that Plan B, one step, may inhibit implementation by altering the lining of the uterus. Again, this is preventing implementation of the fertilized egg, which is in fact an abortion. And I gave links out to that yesterday to you if you wish to check out the facts. Thus, by admission of manufacturer statements, these two drugs have the potential for causing the death of a newly conceived human child. To support this mandate of Obamacare through an exchange would require us to pay for potential abortifacients. There is no opting out of this mandate. And I also have an Attorney General's opinion in which it states, I'm not going to quote that, but I have the opinion, if somebody would like to see it, that the state is in no better position than the federal exchange on the life issue. And then, if I could quote from a commentary on the website of Michael Cannons from the Cato Institute.
Senator may quote.
He said, refusing to create an exchange will block Obamacare from imposing a tax on employers whose health benefits do not meet the federal government's definition of essential coverage. That tax can run as high as $3,000 per employee. A state that refuses to create an exchange will spare its employers from that tax. And just as a reference again, Oklahoma is now in a lawsuit over that issue, that the Affordable Care Act doesn't allow for tax penalties to flow through a federal exchange. In blocking that employer tax, state officials would likewise block Obamacare's efforts to force religious employers to provide coverage for services they find immoral, like contraception, pharmaceutical abortions, and sterilizations. In other words, blocking that employer tax would thus block Obamacare's effort to force employers to provide coverage for their potential abortifacients, Ella and Plan B. Now also, good senators, in 2012, the Idaho legislature passed SJR 104, which stated opposition to the HHS mandate requiring contraception, sterilization, and the emergency contraceptives of Ella and Plan B. The legislature petitioned Congress to reject the HHS mandate that required those who sponsor, purchase, and issue health insurance plans should not be forced to violate their deeply held moral and religious convictions in order to take part in any healthcare system that violates their belief in the sanctity of life. Many different faiths joined in on this, which, besides against killing of babies through Ella and Plan B, joined together to protest religiously against contraception and sterilization. When the president of the National Catholic Conference of Bishops asked Obama to change this mandate, Obama refused. The president of the NCCB said, and if I could quote from SJR 104.
Senator, may quote.
In effect, the president is saying we have 1 year to figure out how to violate our consciences. To force Americans to choose between violating their consciences and foregoing their health care is literally unconscionable. It is much an attack on access to health care as on religious freedom. And then Thomas Jefferson said, and I don't know if I have to say what he said out of which, but it's still out of SJ 104, if I may.
Senator may read.
No provision in our Constitution ought to be dearer to man than that which protects the rights of conscience against the enterprises of the civil authority. James Madison, key defender of religious freedom and author of the First Amendment, said, "Conscience is the most sacred of all property." So I, myself, and many others will be forced to either go against my religious and moral beliefs to pay for contraception, sterilization, and the abortion-inducing drugs, or pay a fine, a minimum of $695 per person by 2016, increasing each year. I will have no choice with an exchange. If I buy insurance, I'm paying for an abortion. If I don't buy insurance and pay a penalty, I'm still paying for an abortion. So there are many court cases against this violation of religious freedom and conscience. Hobby Lobby, one of the nation's largest arts and crafts dealers, is an excellent example of refusing to cave into the trap of violating one's conscience. The owners have said, if I may refer to, I think it's news, it's a commentary on the website. I don't remember which one though.
Maybe you could just summarize what it said if you wouldn't
Okay.
mind.
I'll just summarize it. They just said, basically they run their business on Christian principles, and they have two goals: to run the business in harmony with God's laws, and then to focus on people more than money. And that they now must provide what they believe, the family business must provide for what they believe are abortion-causing drugs. So, forcing us to buy insurance through a state exchange is an attack on our religious freedom and conscience rights, since there's no opting out of these preventative services in the required health benefit plans set up by HHS. Our forefathers migrated to America for the freedom to practice their faith freely without government interference. Are we being hypocritical after passing HJR 104 or SJR 104 and now going through this exchange? Because to vote for the exchange would be against SJ 104 and our liberty, because we are being forced into violating our freedom of religion. It'd be a vote against life and liberty. Our Declaration of Independence has said that we are endowed by our Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. The Affordable Care Act through the state exchange will deny us life, the unborn, liberty because of religion and conscience, and the pursuit of happiness or property, our money in the form of taxes or penalties. Through the exchange, we will be implementing an unjust law, and there is no opting out. Now, Mr. President, I am concerned about this. I move that we send Senate Bill 1042 to the 14th order for possible amendment.
I have a motion and a second that